Crisis Radio, looking at Tarpley.net, and Webster G. Tarpley, the Twitter feed. My book, 9/11 Synthetic Terror, Made in USA, right now the number one, well, the leading seller among the anti-regime books on 9/11. It's beating out all of the other alleged critics of the official version. In other words, you have some books that are based on the official version, and then you have my book. So remember, if you want to understand the false flags that may now be coming, that are likely to be coming, we may have had the first one in Pakistan this morning, watch out, but get a hold of 9/11 Synthetic Terror, Made in USA, and read the part about theory and practice of state-sponsored false flag terrorism, also known as synthetic terrorism, the question of the moles, the patsies, and the technicians. You've also got to know the story of the 25-plus drills of 9/11 and how those drills were flipped live, which is the essence of the whole thing. And I recommended that people get a hold of that movie, Valkyrie, and you will see how, in this case, the best documented case we have of how a group of people tried to take over a drill and redirect it is the story of Stauffenberg and Tresckow and Quernheim and these people, the anti-Hitler plotters who took over this Operation Valkyrie and redirected it from a plan to impose, well, essentially to deal with an uprising of 7 or 8 million foreign workers, perhaps assisted by Allied parachute troops. It became the opposite. It became a means of trying to remove Hitler, and it almost worked. It came very close. A couple of technical details had gone wrong, but if they hadn't, this could have actually been successful. So again, you've got to know these things, and if you don't know them, you're simply blind in the modern world. And you can't go around in a world like this, which is super determined by these intelligence agencies, and with now all of the telltale signs of false flag. You got to get that book, 9/11 Synthetic, Made in USA. And I'll remind you also later on about Obama, the postmodern coup, which actually, I was reviewing it this week, predicts just about everything that's going on right now. The forecast is in there. If a lot of these ruling characters or anybody else had read it, they would have been much better prepared for what's coming. But now, the question between U.S. and Pakistan is that when you have a raid like this, you have U.S. helicopters apparently crossing into Pakistan with no permission, no warning, no coordination, no liaison work. This could easily have been interpreted by the Pakistani government as the beginning of this long-mooted attempt by U.S. Special Forces to seize control of the Pakistani nuclear forces. This could have led to something very big and very ugly and very bloody. It could have been even more directly the beginning of a world war. I would now indict Obama for incalculable criminal folly in allowing this to occur. It could easily have been interpreted as precisely this attack on the Pakistani nuclear forces. Obama is absolutely irresponsible. This is an exercise in brinksmanship beyond anybody's belief, because, of course, behind Pakistan stands China, and ultimately, if you're attacking China, the Russians will have to respond to that too. So that's a world war, in case somebody didn't notice. Now, we're told that there were people in the Obama security team, this gang of TV watchers that we've seen so many times in that idiotic picture, who told him this was risky. And therefore, we're even told now that Obama explicitly contemplated what to do if the Pakistani forces showed up and started shooting at these so-called SEALs and their helicopters. So we're told that the Obama regime added an extra layer of backup helicopters. 2 more helicopters, we're told, were also sent in. Presumably these stealth Apaches were sent in. Now, the idea that that's going to be enough, in other words, if you run into a significant force of, a couple of hundred infantry with some weapons and some shoulder-held missiles, that's not going to be enough. So a lot of this story has not been told. But you can see then, at the moment when you're sending these helicopters across the border with special forces on board, with presumably there were U.S. Jets that were loitering just on the Afghan side, we're told. That's the cover story. They might have also crossed into Pakistan. This we don't know. They were ready to provide more significant air backup. This could have been a war, because the Pakistanis, again, could have interpreted this as an attempt to go after not this well-known pseudo bin Laden office that had been operating there for all those years that essentially both sides knew about, and the British too, for that matter, and maybe the Indians too, knew about, but could have been interpreted as an attempt to go after the nuclear weapons. And that's what Gilani was talking about in that speech when he said full force retaliation. Notice also, and I want to thank Dan Abramson for calling this to my attention, Ray Davis, the so-called contractor. First he was a diplomat, then he was from the CIA. He's apparently a contractor. He was actually from the JSOC, the Joint Special Operations Command. He had worked for them before. So the objection to Ray Davis might have been that he was working, among other plans that he had, among other contacts with terrorists, among other machinations involving the materials for a radiological dirty bomb. Ray Davis could have been casing the premises of various places where the Pakistani nuclear forces are kept. Because the swarm of CIA agents, the reason that the Pakistani government is so interested in knowing who are the CIA people, agents, and intelligencers and spooks and spies that the U.S. has bootlegged and smuggled in there, is because one of the main tasks, certainly, of those people is to find out where the Pakistani nuclear weapons are and prepare for what? For the moment when the U.S. tries to grab them. Because the U.S. does not want to be subjected to nuclear deterrence, right? You can't attack Pakistan right now because they have several hundred nuclear weapons. Well, in the lunatic world of these people, the answer to that is get ready to steal them, and you can do that with a coup de main, right? With a quick surprise attack. But I don't think so. I think this problem is well known enough so that not likely to happen. We've also got these hated, execrated, butchering drone attacks. Looks like we had 2 of them in the first week after the bin Laden operation, and I think we had another one in the 24 hours just passed. So 3 drone attacks killing, undoubtedly, lots and lots of civilians. So this is another irritant. Here in Washington, we're told, Pakistan can't break with the U.S. because they need the $2 to $3 billion of aid. Well, obviously, Pakistan can easily get $2 to $3 billion of aid from China. If China has any brains, they'll be offering that money, saying, look, why don't you dial back your relation with the U.S. and we can gradually or quickly replace that money. It shouldn't hang on this piddling sum of money. The Pakistanis, obviously behind the scenes, are likely to be bringing up, if the U.S. says, you harbored bin Laden, Pakistan would be well advised to say, what about David Headley, that famous agent of the Drug Enforcement Administration, or CIA, as he more likely is? David Headley, the DEA CIA agent, who was one of the leaders of the Mumbai massacre in November 2008. Everybody blamed Pakistan for that, but then it turned out that one of the key people, quite possibly the leader, the guy who picked the targets and determined the nature of the operation, was none other than David Headley, DEA agent. Another thing, of course, they should ask about is Ray Davis. So Pakistan has plenty of questions, too, and the hypocrisy of these U.S. commentators is beyond belief. And we'll be back in a minute here on World Crisis Radio.